last week, Jay Morrison covers the Cincinnati Bengals. He was coming on to recap the schedule reveal and or to preview the schedule reveal, and was supposed to kind of recap a Joe Burrow presser from the day before, but the Joe Burrow press conference last week got pushed back to this week, and a lot of speculation as to why that was. Some thought it was because, well, it was the flooding of drama that kind of came out from the camp of Trey Hendrickson as he's continuing to pursue an extension with the Cincinnati Bengals, of course. But regardless of what the reason was, Joe Burrow did finally address the media yesterday. And I know we were watching some of it back in the studio, and I kind of made the joke, how long before you get the first Trey Hendrickson question? Guys, I was a little shocked. It was a good 4 or 5 minutes into the presser before Trey Hendrickson was even mentioned.
No,
even
I was
the media.
surprised. Yeah. I thought that was going to be the crux of yesterday's press conference, but it seemed like it was more overarching. A lot of questions about his health, about what he's focused on this offseason. So, yeah, it seemed like the media at least played nice with him for a little bit.
I imagine they're like, why would I waste my question on that? Like,
Yeah.
It's like we're going to get the most basic, generic, written out response that I'm sure somebody in the front office gave him beforehand. It's what did he? I mean, we'll play the clip, but it's like, I mean, it's the most cookie cutter answer of all time. So I imagine most reporters knew that was going to be the case. So let's ask him something else.
Well, I was interested to see, like, if you look at the tone of how Joe Burrow was pressuring the front office to get the deals done for Jamar and T versus the tone of pressuring the front. And we disagree on this. I know we talked about it last week. I was just curious to kind of hear the tone of Burrow. Do you sense that urgency? And they're like, is there urgency on Burrow's behalf of, okay, this team needs to get this done. I'm not playing around. I need Trey Hendrickson on this team. I need him out there. I need him to be, leading this defense. I was just curious to see what the tone was going to be as far as that goes. But yes, he was the two-parter in this clip here. The first was just, what does it say about the organization that they did get those deals done with Jamar and T. Higgins? And there was a follow-up about the ongoing negotiations and drama with Trey Hendrickson. Here's the clip, Joe Burrow in the press conference yesterday afternoon.
I just think it says they're invested in winning. I think they want to reward guys that they draft that come in and play great. I think that's a recipe for success.
What's your thoughts on kind of the Trey situation of that when Thomas Velasco to get done? What are your thoughts on kind of that being still the last outstanding deal that potentially get done?
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. You guys all know how I feel about Trey. He's a great player. I love Trey as a guy. He goes out and plays well every single Sunday. He's very productive. He's a guy that deserves to get paid and get paid what he wants and what the market is. So, like I said, we'll see what happens with that. But I love Trey and hope he's with us.
Again, that was Joe Burrow yesterday. Well, let's start with the Trey Hendrickson response right there. Was that the cookie cutter response that you were expecting? I don't think there was anything hard hitting in there. But we'll start with you, Elliot. You said you were expecting a cookie cutter response. Was that cookie cutter in your opinion?
He said he wants him to get paid, so I guess that goes outside the norm. But I don't think really. I mean, I think he was defending his guy because he has to. There's no other answer he can have in that situation. He can't be like, I'm 100% with the organization and to hell with Trey Hendrickson. He can't say that. He also can't say, Trey Hendrickson's my guy. I support him over the organization. I'm a Trey Hendrickson guy, not a Bengals guy. Can't say that. I think it was always towing the middle of the line. He said he wants him to get paid, which is I think the most generic answer you can have, but. Yeah, I think that was predetermined. I think he had that exact response written down for a week.
For sure. Yeah, there's no question about it. And I don't really know what the expectation is, like you said. I mean, he has to dance that line. And I don't think the Trey Hendrickson situation or how Joe Burrow's handling it should overshadow how much change he's inflicted in the Bengals front office already this offseason. And I think part of that could be why he doesn't push quite as hard for this at this point in time. I think, if Jamar had been taken care of last year and T had been spread out a little bit more, then maybe there is a little bit more aggression to get Trey Hendrickson done. But he was fighting such an uphill battle to get those other guys extended, and he did. He got Jamar extended. He got T extended. He got Mike Gesicki extended. All those offensive weapons, and we can argue about whether they should have spent that money, but clearly Joe Burrow prioritized having those weapons, making his life easy, and that is going to hurt the defense. So Yeah, he obviously doesn't value Trey Hendrickson to the point where he values those other two, though he does say that he should be at the market value. And I think we all relatively agree with that. He's underpaid this season, and if he wanted to take a 1 or 2 year extension to pay him market value, I think it would already be done by now. So he's fighting for something that he's never going to get, and I think that's why it's falling down to the back burner. Trey Hendrickson and his camp keep saying the Bengals front office won't negotiate, but it doesn't seem like they're willing to budge either. So when neither side will negotiate, I don't really know what else there is to ask. I think the Trey Hendrickson ship has sailed. There's not going to be a trade between the Bengals or any other team sending Trey Hendrickson out of here. He's either going to play on $16 million or he'll play on 2 years at $30 million, and then he'll leave Cincinnati. I think those are the only two options.
Yeah, I went back and I listened to when Joe was doing the media tour at Super Bowl Media Row. Like I sensed more urgency. I sensed more aggressiveness, and not aggressiveness in a bad way, but just more. He was more stern. Like you could tell the importance of, hey, this needs to get done. Jamar and T need to get done. Like he was very stern when it came to that. And with the Hendrickson thing yesterday, it was we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I just didn't get that same urgency vibe. I think obviously he wants him in Cincinnati. He wants him to be there. But if he's not, I don't think that's going to be one of those, did the front office upset Joe Burrow by not getting a deal done with Trey Hendrickson? And I guess my only pushback on that is like Joe Burrow, in my opinion, needs to have the same urgency in the front office getting deals done on the defensive side of the ball and not just on the offensive side of the ball. Because, look, we saw last year how good they were offensively with Jamar and T, and he now has them moving forward. But you're going to run in place if you don't put that same pressure on the front office to meet that urgency on the defensive side of the ball. And that's just my big takeaway from kind of what I noticed. The lack of urgency and we'll see how it goes, vastly different than what we saw at Super Bowl Media Row when it came to Jamar and T.
And I think part of that is because it's what you know versus what you don't, right? And we know with Jamar and T and Gesicki on the Bengals offense that the Bengals offense is, if not number 1, number 2 or 3 in the league. And we know the Bengals defense with Trey Hendrickson having a career year is 27th. So which one are you going to have, a little bit more focus on maintaining the current personnel? I think I would go for the one that's towards the top of the league as opposed to the one towards the bottom. And maybe the other 31 franchises don't have to pick. Maybe the other 31 franchises get all 3. We don't. And I think we've kind of been saying that from the start, is that we're not going to get that. And a lot of us guessed that odd man out would be T. Higgins because he was the wide receiver 2, and those other 2, obviously wide receiver 1 in Jamar Chase, then edge 1 in Trey Hendrickson, 2 of the most important positions in football outside of quarterbacks. So I was under the assumption that those 2 contracts would get done before T. Higgins. Obviously, that's not the case, and I think that's because of the pressure both Joe and Jamar put on the front office in terms of how much of a need T. Higgins was. And they prioritized that over the defensive star, and that defensive star is about 5 years older than T. Higgins, and I think that's a big part of this as well. If Trey Hendrickson was 25, ending his rookie deal, putting up 17.5 sacks over the last 2 seasons, I fully expect that the Bengals would have had it done, and I would have a very different tune the fact that we're in a holdout situation right now. But he's not. He's 30. He's going into his age 31 season. He's played back-to-back years better than he's ever played in his career. He's an average run defender who's a great pass rusher. That's not something I'm putting $30+ million behind in age 33 and 34 seasons. It's just not.
Can't do it. You just can't do it. I understand what Kinner's saying too. It's the defensive side of the football, obviously an issue. They were woeful last season. It's just when you pay $30 million to a guy who led the defense in being the worst defense. It just doesn't make sense to me. There's other holes you can fill with that money, in my opinion. I think there's more you can do than just pay Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson can lead the league in sacks 4 straight years in a row, and the Bengals defense can still be ranked 25th in the league. That's in my opinion, that's not a great place to be. On top of the fact that the Bengals don't pay these players, it's been an organizational issue for God knows how long. So. It's not at the top of my list. I think the longer this is played out, the more annoyed I've personally gotten with it.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to re-sign makes me want to sign Trey even less. As for Joe Burrow, the lack of urgency for it, I think it was him picking his spot. He picked his spot. He wanted
That's fair.
offense. He wanted the offense fixed. He got it. He wanted what he could get, And when they gave him Mike Gesicki and the two best wide receivers in the league, he's like, you know what? That's probably that's what I asked for. And I'm not going to go ask and beg for Trey Hendrickson when the team gave me that. So that's where I imagine he's coming from. The Trey Hendrickson thing, I want this to end so bad. Just end it. Either say you're going to play, pay him $30 million for 2 years, do whatever you got to do for this year, and just move on. I just want it over with.
It was reported that the Bengals offered Trey Hendrickson around $28 million on a 1 and 2 year extension, and his camp declined, saying that they aren't interested in anything below 30 and they're focused on a long-term deal. If that's the case, he's either playing on 16 or he's not playing at all.
Yeah.
If he is locked in on 3-4 years and the Bengals are not going to budge on the 1 or 2, I think he's either playing on 16 or he's sitting out. And I think those are the options he has. I don't think he has another option.
And he's not sitting.
Let me ask you.
Correct.
Can I ask real quick? Because I did see that number of the Bengals were willing to pay up to 28. I didn't read the full article. Are they in regards to like an extension of multiple years at 28, or was it they're willing to offer him 28 for this upcoming season and he's still declining it? What did you guys see? Are the Bengals still willing to give him a multiple year extension at 28? Is that what that
This
article
year
said?
and next year, potentially. So it would be a pseudo 1 year extension, 2 year contract. None of this was verified from a Bengals source. It was a report that $28 million was the number that they were around. There were not contract details linked to it, but it was reported that the holdup was 1 and 2 years versus 3 and 4 from Trey Hendrickson's camp. So I'm not interested at all in a 3 or 4 year deal. And if he's going to turn down $28 to $30 million to play this season, then I'm not interested in working with him to get him to 33 or 34. You can play on your 16, or you can cost yourself about 17 in fines and then go play somewhere else next year.